Hello and welcome to our brand new episode of Gyan from the Pehelwan on FinTech Ki Baat. On this episode, we have with us Mr. Manish, who is the founder of FinView, which is one of the first four account aggregating platforms in the country. And आज हम उनके साथ बैठ के account aggregator को completely demystify करेंगे. We'll try to understand what is an account aggregator, how will it touch our life, and what all benefits and how it will essentially impact a common man's life. All of that. Thank you, Manish. Thank you so much for your time. And we're super stoked to have you over here. Quickly, अगर आप एक छोटा सा introduction about your journey and what was it when you started building FinView? Because I remember us meeting back in 2018 in your Pune's office. I think you were one of the first offices that we visited in the 2018 yatra. Yeah. So I remember that very clearly. मैं खुद अभी blogging कर वो shoot कर रहा था video वगैरह. So I remember that. What was it when in your mind, this is essentially a live example of someone creating something before the regulation is there, before even anyone is ready to adopt. आपके दिमाग में idea था, आपने conceptualize कर लिया था, and you जब तभी भी बात करी थी तो we could only dream of a framework जहाँ पे financial organizations जिनका data silos में रहता है, they are talking to each other and everything is happening at one click. अगर आपको insurance चाहिए तो आपकी existing insurance के data already पहुँच जाएगा, आपका बैंक अकाउंट का डेटा पहुंच जाता. All of that was just something that used to be talked in those fintech festivals like Fintegrate or something. जहाँ पे someone, I wouldn't name those people, but we all know who used to talk a lot about open banking back then. तो वो आके बात करते थे उसके बारे में. We all used to just be hyped about it. But now that it's a reality and you were one of the earliest visionaries who executed it, so मेरे को यही समझना है एक तो कि आपका thought process क्या था and what made you bring it till execution, fruitfulness कैसे हुआ, and a bit about yourself.
Yeah. Firstly, thanks Shreyas and Sagarika, for inviting me to this podcast. Glad to be part of it. I know we've been associated with you all since quite some time, since 2018, as you mentioned, and finally we are seeing the light of taking off. Although we are just start of our journey, but glad to be here and share our thoughts and my views on this as well. So actually, our journey started off in 2016 really, and myself and Manoj, we were the founders of this. So we've been kind of thinking of कि कुछ तो करना है, and something in the financial services space, fintech space, because we come from a banking background, and having worked on the tech side of it, we thought something in this area is what we need to do. We started exploring various things. UPI was one of them. Payments भी देखा था कि क्या हम payments में कुछ कर सकते हैं. But then we also were following this whole India stack and how that was shaping out, and that kind of got us interested to pick up this A piece, because A we felt was looking at the whole digitization that was happening across the country. Payments तो खैर हो रहा था, digital payments was happening with the UPI in 2016. It took off. We felt that this would be another layer on as part of the India stack that definitely will be the next wave and complete the whole journey of a customer to interact on a digital platform. So that's how we kind of picked up the A framework. We met the regulator in 2016-17, and then finally we kind of applied for our license, and that's finally last year actually we got our operating license. And few years has been more on evangelizing on the ecosystem, building the the platform, working with various stakeholders of the ecosystem, trying to put everything together. So that's been our journey. Yeah, it's been kind of a journey of a lot of patience, if you see in the last couple of years. But I think now we are quite excited that banks are now live on it. We are seeing a lot of interest coming in from various stakeholders where they want to use the A information, they want to use the A infrastructure. So that's how it's been. And now if you go to see, there are already banks live on the network. There are various partners who are now actually looking at using the ecosystem, thinking about how information can be used. Earlier, it was more on, what is the ecosystem about, how can we use it and stuff like that, kya hoga isse, all those thoughts were there. Abhi that convincing part is gone. Now it's actually people thinking beyond it, ki why should I come on ecosystem. Now it's not like that. It's more about ki what can I do with this information, what use cases I can come up with. And people are actually thinking of a lot of use cases which can be built on the ecosystem. So that's where we are at, and we are seeing a lot of traction in terms of the use cases as well, and we hope to see it start kicking off in a bigger way in the next few months.
Bilkul. So we have seen a few banks essentially already sign up for the ecosystem. Around 8 odd banks were live when the last time I checked it. Yeah. How have the nationalized bank are reacting, like SBIs and BOBs and all those guys? Unka kya reaction tha?
Yeah, so see, I mean, of course, private sector banks are always the faster to move compared to public sector banks, and that's always been the case. But their reaction, I would say, I mean, initial days, yes, I mean, there was some kind of because for them also to taking on this API ecosystem, building on top of it, it's something new for them. But now we are seeing that there's been extremely responsive on it. In fact, many of them are now gone in the phase of thinking about the implementation. Yes, they will follow their own process because they are public sectors, so hence they have their own internal processes. Now may not be as fast as the private sector, but yes, they are now looking at the implementation, and which is good. So sooner or later, I think we should see some of the PSBs coming on board.
So Manish sir, you just mentioned that initial level pe thoda banks ko they were kind of slow, less responsive to the whole process, and I have seen a sudden switch, or have been reading a lot about AA. I mean, it's all over the internet right now. Just wanted to understand from your end, what was the initial need of AA? I mean, what was that thing that struck to the bankers that yaar iska ye zarurat hai, and that's how the progression happened?
Yeah. See, I mean, the ecosystem is more about where the customer is involved in sharing the information, and customer's consent is required. Now, of course, the regulator actually, if you go to see, you've taken a very futuristic view. If you see in 2015-16 that something is thinking ki I can give a consent and share my statement so easily, right? That's kind of a futuristic view. Now, with anything new, obviously there is some level of understanding which needs to, the banks would need to understand what it entails. And I think now since the last 2 years, with the pandemic, I would say there has been definitely a sense that things need to move more digitally. While they were always thinking about it, I think in the last 2 years, it has kind of accelerated the whole movement of having more digital journeys built into their services that they offer. And that's where we see that the trigger point kind of happened in the last 1 year. And the whole acceleration of it has happened.
When you're talking about banks basically getting onboarded on the AA platforms, as of now the participation is completely completely voluntary, right? So yeah. Do you foresee a time wherein this could probably be a mandate from the regulator that you'll have to share your data through the AA platforms, since it will be the key to becoming a digital banking organization in the future?
See, I think right now how it is that since the ecosystem adoption is already happening, and now whether the regulator should start mandating it, whether there is a necessity there. If their adoption is happening, then maybe regulator might wait and see how quickly the banks or institutions are coming on board. If there is, while they also see they have been also kind of conscious of what's happening on the ecosystem. But अगर उनको लगता है कि there's some acceleration required and the customer response has not been great, then I think maybe in the future they might mandate it. But as of now, I don't see that happening immediately. Because institutions themselves are taking the keen interest. So with that, I think probably the regulator might just hold on to it for some time. It would be good if they can mandate it, but then I think they will kind of wait and see how the ecosystem is picking up.
Got it. Fair enough. Coming to how this entire AA system fits in the existing framework, I would want to understand how this works from a customer journey at a transactional level when I'm, let's say, applying for a loan or a credit card or buying an insurance. How does this entire piece flow? I mean, overview to samajh mein aa gaya ki it's essentially sharing data between two organizations, sharing of financial data. But how does that work at a transactional level? Could you, maybe throw some light on that?
Yeah. So, just to give you a high-level overview of what the ecosystem is basically not only to do with banking information. It's actually beyond banking, which is to do, which also includes, insurance, your insurance policies, your investments, which means your equity, mutual fund, also your pension fund. So all of this information will be accessible on the ecosystem as and when the entities start participating on it. So what will happen is, let's say, take a very simple case, right? Today, Shreyas, do you know what is your complete net worth? Do you know where all your investments are? How much of your investments are actually really fruitful, right? What is your balance across all your bank accounts, for example? Is there a single place where you can actually track this? Maybe in silo, maybe in some parts of it you can, but not completely, right? What if there was a way that you could, as an individual, track all of this? So let's say if you decide to, you are already primary bank, you have an ICICI Bank, which is your primary bank, and ICICI Bank offers a service where they can give you a complete 360-degree view, aggregated view of all your assets. So what will happen is, you since ICICI Bank is your primary bank, you log into probably your net banking, and then they give an option where they say that, hey, do you want to view all of your accounts in a single place? You would then register with them, go through that journey of actually linking an account with an account aggregator, where it's very similar to how UPI registration process is, where you actually register, you link your bank account, and then you kind of make a payment. So here similarly, you would register on an A platform, you link all your accounts, and then you kind of give a consent saying that, okay, hey, I'm okay to share my information to ICICI Bank. And then ICICI Bank is, with your consent, since they have, since you've already given them a consent, they can use that consent and then pull the information from your various account for which you had given the consent via the account aggregator. So the entire journey is online, where the customer doesn't need to actually go visit any branch, give a statement. None of that will happen actually. None of that is really required. You can actually sit in your home and actually do it, and it will be done instantly. All the information is pulled together almost immediately and instantaneously. This can be a journey where you may not even necessarily have to even download an app. It can be done, via an embedded journey that ICICI Bank might offer if they have partnered with someone like us. So that's also possible. Unlike in UPI, where you need to actually download an app, here it's not necessary that you may need to do it initially.
So the journey could directly be a part of the bank's digital app experience and not a separate journey at all. I could register on your platform or any other platform using a bank's app.
Yeah.
Got it. I mean, that would be super interesting. So, quick follow-up question on that. I just wanted to understand then, this is one use case wherein I can get my entire financial snapshot, including my insurance policies, my investments, my bank accounts, my FDs, and everything in one place.
Yeah.
Apart from that, how will this framework essentially come into play when, let's say, I'm signing up for a new credit card or I'm signing up for a new investment avenue? So,
Yeah.
does this platform enable transfer of KYC details, existing KYC, similar to how KYC was planned, right? So,
Yeah.
does this essentially help the transfer of KYC details in a manner wherein I don't have to go through the entire KYC process again? If bank A has verified me as a KYC verified customer, I could directly go to bank B and get a credit card with them since I already have a KYC. Because अभी तो एक बैंक के 4 प्रोडक्ट के लिए 4 बार KYC करना पड़ता है.
Yeah. So in this case, kaisa hai, I mean, although KYC is not really part of this, where you can share KYC information, but what can happen is, let's say, it can be kind of derived in the sense that since you already have a bank account and looking at your statements, looking at your health from the bank account, what kind of cash flow do you have? This is that it could be decided that, hey, okay, I can issue a credit card and this could be my credit limit. Now that's one way of doing it. So of course KYC is not in this scope as yet.
Got it. So I think this is a very interesting use case, the credit card wala jo aapne bataya. I'll tell you, I mean, this really I could really relate to it because let's say when I first applied for my credit card back in 2018, right?
Yeah.
तभी जो limit मुझे मिला था, that was according to what I was drawing back then.
Yeah.
Abhi maybe that is multiplied by a certain factor, and my limits normally are still derived off of that credit card, which still stands at that limit because I choose not to essentially extend that limit.
Yeah.
So अभी भी जो मुझे limits आती है वो 2018 वाले credit card के limit से derivation से आती है, not on my existing financials.
Yeah. Right. So अभी कैसा होगा now? Maybe with your existing cash flow, your limits can be increased. So maybe it could be that okay, share your statement and basis that they will see your spend patterns and then decide on a particular limit.
Got it. Because as of now, they don't have access to that data unless I submit my statements all over again. Right?
Yeah, exactly.
Fair enough.
So it could also be that maybe credit card will also be part of this ecosystem. So that's also a possibility.
Got it. Makes sense. Over to you, Sagarika.
Yes, so I'll be coming to the part where we talk about benefits to users, right? So of what you just explained, I see amazing benefits for me as a user of the product, right? Because if you go and see outside, quite a lot of people are still not comfortable कि यार net banking कैसे access करना है, कहाँ पे PDF ढूंढूं, bank statement वगैरह. There are so many kind of barriers to what people can access as the information. Not a lot of people are comfortable with the journey. So what I see here, just a one-click thing, just a consent you give is super amazing from a user point of view. Could you throw some more light on what will be the benefits for us as people, as well as the startups, fintech startups, and the corporate banks who will be using this?
Yeah, so see, each of the participants will have their own benefits, right? So let's take the example of you as an individual. Today, if you are going to go for availing a loan, now maybe the loan processing cost early, with the current way that it is processed, will be charged at there's a cost of 500 rupees, for example. Now, because of the amount of paperwork involved, the agent to go and collect all the documents, get your bank statement, etc. Now with that, there's some amount of operational overhead. But with this, now that it can be instantly done, maybe that operationally the cost of it will go down, which means the processing cost can be much lower, which in turn will actually kind of indirectly benefit the customer. Because the cost itself has come down of processing the loan. Maybe there could be lower processing fees involved there. Now maybe it's also possible that can be a tailored loan product for the customer. So if you are looking for a 1 lakh loan, maybe looking at your current statement, you might be offered a higher loan amount because you have a healthy bank account and healthy finances. So that way there is a benefit to the customer. The other way, let's say for the institution itself, of course, now earlier they might see 40 to 50% of dropouts, which could be happening when someone has to actually share a statement, because sometimes, especially maybe in a tier 2 or tier 3 cities, access to sharing, the ease of them sharing information and sharing their PDF statement, going to net banking will not be possible. Someone has to actually assist them. Now with this, even if someone assists them, it's much easier, right? And with this, the number of dropouts for the institution will also start reducing. If their number of dropouts are less, which means they have a better, higher disbursal rate, higher, they'll be able to underwrite more number of applications, and then obviously increase the disbursable rate. Plus, the information that they get is actually less fraudulent, because it's actually completely digitally signed information which is coming from right at source. So their decisions can be much better, much strengthening their underwriting models as well. That will in turn actually help them, because then now they can actually have direct benefit of getting more applications, which means more revenue. So for institutions also it's a benefit, individuals also will benefit. Either ways, the ecosystem will kind of benefit.
Understood. Does fintech startups come into picture anywhere? I mean, what kind of new use cases would we see for these startups to explore?
Yeah, I mean, see, of course, with fintechs who are providing such kind of who are providing solutions currently, there are some who are actually providing, providing underwriting platforms. Now they'll start thinking about how can I consume data via an AI and then provide a much more cost-effective platform. Because now with data being available directly, it will be much easier. So there can be more use cases built on top of it. Of course, the cost of their giving them service will kind of be more optimized. So fintechs will also kind of have a much more, they can leverage the ecosystem as well in their own way. And with different use cases now, with access to information is available, which means different use cases can also be built up. Maybe PFM apps, they can be white labeled PFM apps that can be built, or different underwriting models for lending use case can be there, or we could see robo advisory kind of services, of course. So there are various things that fintechs can leverage, and this is, we are only talking about one sector. Maybe the insurance will have different use cases. So I think that will start evolving slowly.
So I was actually going to ask a different question, but when you mentioned the use case in the last, I think I thought I needed to address that piece. So specifically what I understood is tailor-made portfolio solutions, wherein tailor-made financial advisory services and digital lending underwriting for these individuals, wherein it is very personalized underwriting, and you could basically go through a transaction level detail of a person and then offer him a loan, or according those kind of stuff, those kind of use cases. I think we could probably be seeing a lot more use cases like that. What are your views on that? I mean, more personalized financial use cases.
Yeah, so I think of course, when we are talking about like lending, we are talking about little smaller ticket size loans. Now, it will be a shift kind of from looking at rather than asset-based lending, moving towards a cash flow-based lending. And of course, not only for individuals, even for MSMEs, or for MSMEs, looking at invoice-based lending. So, for example, let's say that today, there is a seller on Amazon, and typically, let's say their invoices get funded and it takes cycle of about, let's say, 60 to anywhere between 45, 60 days or even 90 days. Now they need some working capital loan during that time for their particular invoices. Now with the advent of this A and access to a bank statement and GST, because GST also is now part of the A network, that means that MSME can actually get funded against their invoice almost instantly, right? It could be the disbursement will happen within minutes right into their account.
Right.
Whereas previously it would have been kind of cumbersome for them to even get an invoice or get funded against a particular invoice. So, and of course, this now you would have heard about the OCEN framework as well. Now with the OCEN framework and LSP model, though that use case will actually drive a lot of the AA ecosystem as well. So that's one way to look at it end to end. So it's not only individuals; it could be MSMEs as well.
Got it. So also one thing that really stands out here is that this entire framework will essentially reduce the number of dropouts that digital lenders and digital banking applications of fintechs in general had in their customer journey, right? Because of submission of physical documents and physical data points. I think those dropouts would be significantly reduced. I think that could be the immediate impact that we could see on fintech startups as well as banks.
Yes, absolutely, yes.
Got it. So since so much sensitive data has been transferred between organizations and third-party organizations like FinView versus financial organizations as well, there are essentially multiple data points, right? One is essentially where the data is being originated at bank points. One is where data is consumed, and then there are aggregators like yourself wherein the data is transmitted. So how is the data being masked? What is the data visibility across the cycle? And are aggregators able to view the data, or are you essentially? I mean, I have seen some people comparing you guys to data brokers. So is it true, or is there a difference over there, and how does that entire piece fit in from a data privacy point of view?
Yeah, so I mean, there are multiple layers in this actually. One is in terms of the technical layer, I would say the technical infrastructure, the technical design of the ecosystem. And that itself by design has security built in it, which means that all data transfer is actually encrypted right from the source. So for example, a bank where your account is held, the one from where the data is being shared, the bank at source itself will encrypt the information. Of course, AAs are not allowed to see the information because that's by regulation and guideline. The AAs will transfer the information finally to a data consumer. Now, in this case, all data consumers are again, the ecosystem have to be regulated entities. So which means that finally when they get the data, it's in an encrypted form, and only they will be allowed to decrypt the information as an FIU. So now, of course, this whole framework or the APIs are designed to be secure. The second aspect is, of course, the legal aspect, which is that A's cannot read the data because by regulation, and we are a regulated entity. The one who's sharing information is also a regulated entity. The third is the consumer FIUs are also regulated entities. So which means that all the ecosystem is currently comprised of all regulated entities, which means they have to follow some guidelines and follow some legalities into it. So it's a combination of both technical, so it's kind of a techno-legal approach. And in future, when the data privacy protection bill kind of comes up, obviously that will also add another layer of legal framework on top of it. So yes, I mean, having said that, of course, we need to be conscious of some of the security aspects. But I think with the framework, the way the current it is, it is kind of covered some aspects of it, a lot of aspects of it.
Got it. That sounds really interesting, because if there are all the regulated entities, then that essentially alleviates the risk. But then that essentially brings one more question to my mind. I mean, I did hear somewhere. I mean, in fact, I read it somewhere that not all entities are allowed by the regulators to consume the data from an AA. You have to be you essentially have to be an FIU, or FIU is supposed to be an approved entity, or there is a certain criteria, right? So how does that come into play for someone like a digital lending startup that is acting as a lead originator for an NBFC? How will they be able to consume that data, or will there have to be a pass-through for an NBFC, and how will that work?
Yeah. So right now
but just to add to Shreyas's question, what is once the data is provided to these FIOs, what's the nitty-gritties of it? I mean, for how long does the data stay with them? Till when can they access it? And if you could just throw some light on that as well.
Yeah. So as I said, FIUs in this case have to be regulated entities, which means that any entity which is regulated by any of the 4 financial sector regulators, that is falling under RBI, SEBI, PFRDA, IRDA, can be FIUs. So for example, an NBFC will be an FIU, a bank will be FIU, a registered investment advisor who's regulated under SEBI can be an FIU, any insurance company or any pension fund or maybe stockbrokers, etc. These all entities can be FIUs, which means that only they are allowed to consume information, they are allowed to ask permission from a customer or ask a consent from the customer. Now, non-regulated entities directly cannot participate because the guidelines do not allow it. Maybe, we don't know, maybe in future it may not open up, but at the moment they can't. So what will happen is, now once the FIU has taken the consent from the customer, the FIU gets the data. It's the consent which kind of drives that how long they can actually store this information, and for what purpose the information will be used. Now that again is the FIU will actually define that based on their own policies, how they want to use the information. For example, let's say in a lending case, maybe they need only the last 6 months bank statement to process the loan. So the consent that they will ask a customer for will actually say that I need your last 6 months statement, and it's a one-time consent, and I'm using it for a purpose to get your aggregated statement for a loan. Now once they actually use that information, they do process the loan, they may want to store that information for their own regulatory purpose or audit purpose. That's again within the regulation of the FIU. An AA as such will not really be involved in those aspects, because that's again out of the AA scope once the data has been given to the FIU.
Got it. Fair enough. I think that brings a lot more things to light. Sagarika, over to you.
So I think one last question from my end is on what kind of revenue streams does AA open up for every parties that is involved? So be it corporates or for players like FinView, what kind of monetization is possible?
Yeah, so the ecosystem is again API driven, so which means that it's very much synonymous to like a Visa or MasterCard network. So we are actually sitting in between. So the revenue will come whenever there is a transaction that happens by us. So whenever data is shared to an FIU, requests for data, then FIU lands up paying the A for a certain fee for that particular transaction. And that's the primary business model that that A can actually adopt, and that's what it is right now. Now whether end customer will be charged for or not, that's a separate thing. I mean, whether probably customers don't land up paying. Why would they pay to just for an A to manage the consents, right? So right now it's not that the customers will be charged for it. It's only the FIUs who will get charged for it.
Okay, I think that clears it up. Shreyas, if you have anything else?
No, I think this pretty much summed up all the doubts and questions that I had from an AA point of view. I think you have answered them beautifully, Manish. Thank you so much.
Great.
It has been a pleasure having you here. And yeah, I mean, I can definitely say काफी सारी चीजें आज demystify हुई है from an AA point of view. I mean, definitely अगर कोई और doubt रहा है, viewers को कुछ भी question रहा है, I'll definitely reach out to you and message you on WhatsApp.
Cool, yeah.
All right. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for joining us.